Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Environmental Coffee House. I am your host, Sandy Schoelles, and Antonio Reid is with me, and we are tonight on X. Don't gag. We are on X, and we are on Twitch, and we are on Facebook. We are not on YouTube yet. So, good evening, everyone, and welcome. Let me say a real quick hello to Sad Dingus and hello, Kim. Thank you for moderating, and Poppy, and hi, Cheryl, and Dale, and oh my gosh, Alex. Okay, so people really are joining us, and from different places. I have no idea how it's going to work on the other platforms, but here we are. Yay.
Here we
Hi.
are.
Hi. We have a newsy show tonight. Yeah. Yes, the news, the news. So what's going on, Antonio?
Okay. Well, thanks for having me for another episode. This is, there's unfortunately a lot for us to cover tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Politics, science, and environment. And it's really hard to know where to begin. And first, I want to apologize to our viewers. I am in my living room because I
It's
just
okay.
recently moved. So that's why the setting's a little different.
It's okay.
Um, but with that said,
It's
yeah,
really
so
okay. Yeah.
there's obviously a lot going on in the United States where we're going to focus for this episode. First, we want to talk about some updates politically. The president recently had declared a militarization of the police in Washington, D.C., putting federal troops on the ground, including the National Guard, and also threatening to extend this to Chicago, New York, and several other. It just so happened to be
Yep.
Democratic cities. And we've already seen this approach in Los Angeles as well. So our social politics in the United States are deteriorating quite rapidly under the Trump administration, and really taking unprecedented steps in terms of federal powers and control. And it doesn't seem as if the courts really have the ability to restrain the Trump administration or to be a safeguard against some of his worst impulses. And even certainly the Democratic Party seems to be struggling with knowing how to deal with the Trump administration from the position of the minority. There's a lot of still internal squabbling and fighting that has paralyzed the Democratic response from the Democratic Party. Um, but what's been very interesting and absolutely historic, I really don't think we've seen anything like what the president recently did just 2 weeks ago now, or less than 2 weeks ago, calling Greg Abbott, the governor of
Yeah.
Texas,
Yep.
the largest Republican state in the union, and telling Greg Abbott to use the weaponized gerrymandering and to carve out him 5 more congressional seats. We've never really seen anything like that in the history of the United States, at least in terms of our modern politics. So it's absolutely exceptional to see this happen. But the Democratic governor, Gavin Newsom, did respond from California.
Oh yeah, he is.
And And these, yeah, well, actually, leave that up there a little bit. This has been absolutely incredible to see this because, Gavin Newsom, whatever you might think of him, he has really turned this into so.
It's
Yeah, he has been.
hilarious.
It's interesting. He's been trolling the president of the United States, talking in the same sort of cadence that the president speaks in, that Trump
I
speaks
know.
in. Um, but what's really interesting, because there's a lot of repercussions and implications of these actions. So, obviously, and also the New York governor, what's her name again? Grayson?
Kathy
Um,
Hochul, my governor. And
Hochul,
finally, she's
yes.
doing something I'm happy with because she's such a corporate Democrat. But we've got to fight. At this point, we're like what a hair's breadth away from authoritarianism, dictatorship. So we have to throw aside how much we can't stand these corporate Democrats if they're going to step up to the plate and at least try something.
Yeah, and this is a all hands on deck moment because the Republican Party under the Trump administration is veering very far right, with the creation deployment of ICE, aligning $150 billion in
Yep.
allocated funds to ICE and ICE expansion, the building of these concentration camps, and how gun ho many of the Republican governors are across the country to participate in the Trump administration's rollout of some of its, like I say, worst impulses. And there, like I say, there doesn't seem to be a judicial safeguard. And so the move that Gavin Newsom's talking about, gerrymandering the state of California, which is the most populous state in the United States, and if New York did this as well, they literally could keep the Republicans from recapturing the Congress, the House, permanently, or at least for the indefinite future, which is very interesting to think about because Democrats could have, theoretically done this at any time, but because there's a sort of civility to and parliamentary mannerisms to our politics, there's really a refrain from doing this because if you do, other states are very likely to follow suit. So you could see a number of different red states starting to gerrymander their populations. So this really could destabilize the trust we have in our political elections for the foreseeable future. Um, Sandy, I can't hear you. You're mute.
I think there's no trust now. A lot of lack of trust now,
We certainly
unfortunately.
are facing a rapid decline in trust in our politicians, our civic and political financial institutions. Absolutely. And look, right now, the Democratic Party, Trump is facing their worst popularity polls in almost the last 30, 40 years. So this is catastrophic for both the Republicans and the Democrats, and that's because people are really hurting. We're starting to see the Trump policy tariffs come into effect.
Yeah.
These policies are going to increase prices. We are seeing increases in prices
Yeah.
take place. But more importantly than I think prices is that we're also destabilizing our relationship that we have with countries around the world. And we're really telling the rest of the world that the United States is not a trustworthy negotiating partner. The United States is not a country
Really?
that you can engage in good faith. And even if you were able to engage with the United States during, let's say, a Democratic presidency, who's to say within 4 years or 8 years that you don't elect another Republican like Trump that will completely go in the opposite direction and actually even threaten to declare war? Donald Trump, it's just been leaked that the Trump administration right now is planning to do military bombardment on Mexico, just south of us, to start military operations in Mexico. And when I say military operations, it's interesting. I don't want to say we're going to declare war on Mexico, but anytime that you use military forces and you use lethal force, and you're talking about bombing certain peoples within the jurisdiction of other countries, you have to. I mean, that sounds like we'll be engaging in what is a war with our Mexican
That's
neighbors.
crazy.
Well,
It's,
I mean, that's the
I
world
know.
that we live in. At the same time, and we'll start moving to the environmental sector here after the last update on the politics. But look at what's happening, of course, in the Gaza Strip. We're really beginning to see a complete deterioration and breakdown of Israeli normalcy. The Israeli state is simply disappearing off of the spectrum of normal states. It really is engaged in an ethnic cleansing and a genocide of the
And
Palestinian people.
and the West Bank. Now they're going to take the West Bank or annex the parts they want. They're just going to do this and they're going to have the blessing of the orange turd.
Yes, Benjamin Netanyahu has now announced that he's in favor of a quote unquote
Yep.
greater Israel. Maps have resurfaced. The greater Israel that's being proposed occupies 50% of, or excuse me, 40% of Saudi Arabia, includes places like Cairo, Egypt, Damascus, Syria,
Wow.
into Iraq. It's absolutely the entirety of Jordan. Um, this is a very interesting moment that we are living in, where the Israeli state is engaged in an internal genocide of a population, and at the same time has extremely expansionist ambitions. This is the closest comparison that I think Israel's come to the German state under Nazism in the last century, when the Nazis were operating an extermination of the Jewish people, and they were rapidly and aggressively expanding their borders. And now we see something like that happening in Israel. And right now, it's hard to say, but it is very likely that something like 200,000 to 300,000 Palestinians are dead somewhere under the rubble. And most horrifically, according to international arbiters, it does appear that the Israeli government is beginning to bulldoze the Gaza, literally bulldoze over the demolition in the Gaza Strip, burying evidence of their genocide.
And we're not going
So
to
this
know it on mainstream media in the United States.
Yes, the
We're not.
United States is very likely not to report this, but also we have the problem that international arbiters are not allowed into the Gaza Strip, and that international reporters are not allowed into the Gaza Strip. And right now, the best reporting we have are from Palestinian journalists, five of which were just killed recently by the Israeli state in a horrific
I
act
know.
of.
Was that
In,
even on mainstream media at all? I don't know. I don't watch it. I don't know. I can't even say it. Corporate media, is it? Are they
well, I
reporting
try
on any
not
of
to
these
interact.
world things? Do they report on what happens in Ukraine every time there's drones and bombings? The night before Alaska, more of it.
Absolutely, and that's what's happening here is we're seeing a total destabilization of civil politics around the world, and
Yes.
Israel and the United States certainly are pressing forward, deteriorating global politics, and there are countries that are trying to fight back. The so-called hate group is what has developed in response, pursuing after the South African charge of genocide in the International Court against Israel. But even still, it really does appear that the world is very much powerless to stop the Israeli blockade, to stop the Israeli military operation and the occupation. And now what appears to be the announcement of the expansion of Israeli borders, hundreds, and in some cases, hundreds of miles from its original borders. And the United States has, again, its military in the region. The USS Vincent is there. The USS Truman is there. These strike groups are nuclear ready and nuclear armed. And so it's really making it very difficult for the world to know exactly how to respond to this crisis. But even more domestically, of course, here in the United States, the complete dismantling of the bureaucratic state, the dismantling of the EPA, Mr. Lee Zeldin.
Yep.
This,
Not my
this is
favorite.
this attack on the climate assessment is very interesting because what's clear, and as we were talking about earlier in the pregame here, that he has taken significant donations from the industries, from the fossil fuel industry, and now we're seeing these attacks on the national climate assessments, which
Yeah.
are very important tools in analyzing the state of climate and climate indicators around the United States. Well, these attacks are going to cripple our ability to really analyze those impacts and develop mitigation and responses to those impacts around the country. But the reason why it's important for Zeldin to do this is because he doesn't want the government to be reporting on the externalities of the companies
No.
that support financially.
And they this administration releases their climate report, their analysis using all of the Heartland Institute fossil fuel shills. I haven't even had a chance to do. We haven't done a show on that one to pick it apart. I don't know who's doing it and what, but it's so disconcerting. They just want to. I think they just want to erase it all. It's all for profit. It's all money. Everything, every single thing. And as we go deeper into overshoot, and as which we will talk about the 60% of the land mass, but as we go in, the United States seems to be leading the way. And I like to call Lee Zeldin the NTHE leader.
Yeah. Well, it's very interesting because we are, as a nation, going to be going completely backwards. As I stated in our
Mm-hmm.
last rendezvous, this is the end of the Obama era Clean Power Plan. A lot of the policies and
Done.
initiatives that were started under the Obama administration and through the Biden administration, the Trump administration is directly targeting now. So get rid of electric car credits, get rid of any type of regulation that reduces the amount of particulate matter that is released in the atmosphere from a lot of these coal-fired power plants. Get rid of the restrictions on fracking, get rid of the monitoring on leaks. And remember, that was a huge story that came out several years ago
Mm-hmm.
that with a lot of these fracking wells, they were leaking 3 to 4 times as much methane into the atmosphere as they were self-reporting. So all of that sort of data is going to be no longer continued, or
Oh.
it's going to be found buried under a series of paywalls, private industries, private corporations, not accessible to the public.
Which is
And
like
that's
somewhat now with E&E News. You know E&E? You have to subscribe to get their stuff. And there was another outlet tonight. I really wanted it. It's an EPA reporting outlet, but it's objective. They're not on any side supposedly, but I had to fill out a form to get a 30-day trial. So this is what I'm
wow.
seeing is going to happen. Yeah.
Yeah. And so this is going to disable the public from being able to intellectually engage on the climate issue. That's the hope here. And what it's also going to do is discourage climate reporting. And what it hopes to do is to disintegrate climate organizations and institutions that are dedicated to building these databases on the
Right.
climate. So this is a particularly dangerous move, I think, that the Trump administration is going down in. On top of, as we've seen, direct cuts to the National Weather Service,
Hmm.
ready
Although I
alerts.
think they hired more back, to be fair,
Well, see, this
supposedly.
is okay. So
But
yeah,
we don't
well,
know.
certainly, but we still have those the reduced budget that is in effect.
Yeah.
So what they're going to have to do is, if they hire those people back, the budget has already been passed. So okay, now you hired those people back. So now where are you going to take for the National Weather Service?
Yeah.
Are you going to make sure? Are you going to now? Are certain systems going to go offline because we don't have the money to fund those systems? So it's a real big question here. And again, this cavalier type approach to governability is very dangerous, right? We've seen this with the nuclear regulatory and the Defense Department, where we were firing some of our nuclear inspectors, and
It's
then we
insane.
and then we had to call them back. Um,
Oh my
this
God.
type of really this very cavalier approach to governability is extremely dangerous, given the nature of the crises that we face with the climate. We've already, as stated before,
Oh
seemed to
no.
be going through an acceleration. Right now, we're being threatened by Hurricane Aaron, which is, I believe, a now either category cat four,
Five?
3 or 4. Oh wow, has it gotten into
I thought
five?
it was. I or no,
Wow.
four, 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 four.
Okay. Yeah. So these storms, again, the surface ocean temperature is much higher than normal, fueling more and more powerful storms. And at a time when that's happening, we are taking a hacksaw to the institutions that would
Yeah.
best prepare us in terms of dealing with these catastrophes. And that's really the modus operandi of the president on the climate issue. And this goes back to his last administration when he was in 2016. Remember, he had Scott Pruitt at the head of the EPA.
Yeah.
And Scott Pruitt, his entire career is built on suing the EPA. And then there he was at the head of the EPA. There's the issue of forever chemicals that they have allowed into the environment. And they don't want to be restricting these type of things because it's going to cost their industry friends more money.
Dicamba. That was already that was made illegal or not to be used, and now it's going to be again used on crops. Farmers are saying, "Well, we need these things." No, I don't think so. I don't think so.
Yeah, it's very interesting how the United States is an unusually business
Corrupt.
oriented society.
I mean,
Well, yeah, corruption's another way to say
there's a
that.
whole new
Um,
corruption with our Secretary of Commerce, Howard Licknuts. Oh God, and
yeah.
his company. I mean, there's no area of this administration that's not corrupt. The whole thing is one big ball of corruption, ball of confusion.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what we continue to see from the administration on every single policy, his Ukrainian policy, the Israeli policy, but except there are some coherencies with, let's say, the destruction of the EPA. And the president is moving forward at speed at this. And what's really interesting is
Breakneck
that
speed.
as we're starting to see that the president here is in a situation where he's losing support amongst, of course, the Democratic Party completely has no faith in the president, but also more and more Republicans are starting to question if the president's going to be able to deliver on him. He's lied about his job numbers. They've had to be revised down by hundreds of thousands of jobs that actually were not gained by the United States
But we're not going to
economy.
know that either. He fired the statistician and hired some jerk that was in the crowd of January 6th.
So it's not just
Just
a
ludicrous.
war on governability. It's not just a war on science, but it is a war on empiricism. It is a war on facts. It's a war on rationality altogether. Donald
Yes.
Trump is going to create the world that he wants, and if you're not on board, you will be fired. He will go after you personally. You'll be deported, or we're going to start to see more of this militarization in the streets, which is a very dangerous environment where people who disagree with the president will have the threat of seeing National Guards rolling down their streets.
It's happened in LA. There, I just read a story about an activist, an ICE activist, and she goes to all of these things, and she documents and journals and films and all this stuff. And I don't have her name on the tip of my tongue, but they beat the living crap out of her and disappeared her somewhere. I mean, this is what's happening in the United States. It's insane, and I
And again,
feel
the
it
Supreme
could have
Court,
happened to us. Who knows?
it very well could, because the Supreme Court has allowed the president to fast track his deportation plan. So these type of safeguards that typically we would be there in a case that we didn't have such a reactionary court are simply not there. And this is a president who shows that he would even challenge the court even if it were a safeguard against a lot of his policies. So this is a very dangerous moment, and that's why I think this interesting buildup between the state of California, New York, and Texas on this gerrymandering issue is so interesting, because
It is.
the president is clearly aware and afraid that he's going to lose the midterms, that the Republicans are going to lose the midterms, and they might do so in overwhelming numbers. And so, in order to potentially avoid that situation, he's going to try to get Texas to gerrymander and to provide him five more additional seats. But I'm actually worried that we're going to go further than that. I really have no idea what the boundaries are here for this president. Would he actually go as far as to say that Democrats are so corrupt that he might need to suspend um, elections in certain states.
I can't breathe. I can't breathe. I mean, I really can't breathe when I think of all this that's happening, and I don't know. We kept saying, "Well, will he?" And look at how far it's gone.
Yeah.
It's gone very far.
And there's no signs of letting up, slowing down, or abating. We really still have not seen the mobilization of most of the big beautiful bill. I mean, people don't realize it takes really into January 1 until we start seeing the effects start to manifest, and then of course well after that. So we really haven't seen anything
No.
yet, and we're still more than a year away from the midterms if those take place, and I hope they do. But I really, and I don't mean to scare people, but you know, I'm a student of history, and when you see governments move in this direction, absolutely. Well, the United, excuse me, Trump has already called for the suspension of the United States Constitution,
I carry it.
within, yeah. He called for the suspension of the United States Constitution in the run up to his last election.
Pathetic.
So this is not somebody who sees the Constitution as necessarily an obstacle or a roadblock for him. I think he would certainly find a way, as he has already on so many issues. I mean, even the birthright issue, people having, that's according to our Constitution, the naturalization amendments, the 13th and 14th amendments, that when you're born here as a U.S. citizen, in the soil of the United States, you're automatically an American citizen.
Right.
Well, to the Trump administration, he's really questioning that, and the Supreme Court might allow him the authority to answer that question in the negative. And that's going to throw in jeopardy the status of many people around the state of the union, because in one state, say Kentucky, they might say, well, we're going to go in the Trump direction and say, no, you have to be, you have another standard in order to be a citizen here. And then in the state of Virginia, you might still have the same legal status as we previously did. So you might be a U.S. citizen in the state of Virginia, but when you cross lines into the state of Kentucky, you are no longer a U.S. citizen. And
That's
I wonder then,
insane.
I wonder then if that means that you could actually be deported out of the country, not just back to the state of Virginia. These are the type of legal questions that are going to start flooding the courts, because there's a lot of ambiguity as we see the devolution of our governmental apparatus.
Wow. I mean, here I am just thinking, okay, they want to gerrymander Texas. One of the voices they want to get rid of is Jasmine Crockett.
Yeah.
And they
Well, it's
will.
not just about getting, and they certainly will.
Oh,
They
they
will be
want to get rid of
successful.
voices too, but they
Um,
want the power. I know, Tony.
Governor Abbott has now issued warrants of arrest, I believe, for the Democrats that have
Yeah.
fled the state down there. And the reason why he wants to bring them back is because they need to have quorum. Quorum is a certain number of delegates that you need in
Right. They
order, or
didn't get it.
representatives, floor, and that's why the Democrats left, so they wouldn't be able to pass this gerrymandering. But if they do, and if the Democrats do not respond to this, we are going to see a supercharged government where we could see a Republican Senate and a Republican House with a Donald Trump presidency and a Supreme Court unwilling to do anything,
Right.
allow them to have a ad hoc so-called constitutional convention where they allowed Donald Trump in for a third term. And Steve Bannon, who's a mastermind behind a lot of these policies and a lot of this direction the administration's going in, he's been talking about a third term. And I think that's also why you see in the Trump administration there's this exuberant build out of the White House. I think Donald Trump is
Oh,
trying to signal to us that he's not going
yeah.
anywhere.
And it's a $200 million ballroom. It's insanity. It's and it is I don't know. I feel like I'm in a bizarre nightmare that this is not how I wanted my older years to have to live out. Wow.
So it is a very serious crisis. At the same
Yes.
time, we see a recession of democracy, liberal democracy, international cooperation around the world. Of course, Trump is now, raising tariffs against Brazil because the Brazilian government is going after Jair Bolsonaro for his operation of a coup in their state. And then you also see, look at what happened on, a YouTube news show I like, Breaking Points, when
Mm-hmm.
Crystal Ball was talking to Senator Melissa Slotkin and pointing out the fact, even though you're a Democrat, you have supported sanctioning the international courts if they prosecute war criminals.
Yeah.
So there's some major questions what's happening in the United States right now, and we need a Democratic Party that's not going to side with these Republicans to give them any leeway, and we're going to have to tighten our belt soon because if the Texas Republicans gerrymander the state and somehow win the midterms, they're going to go full throttle. They're going to go full throttle. And I think they're going to go full throttle because they know that if the Democrats get power, they're going to put a stop to a lot of their programs. And so the Republicans are realizing this is kind of an all or none moment.
And that is why Governor Newsom is being so vocal to try to get people to realize this is not complacency time. But what time is it? I mean, I know locally people here have been going out Saturdays and protesting. There's people that have been going to our congressman's office every weekend. I don't know if, I don't even think the media tells other people that it's happening. It's all over social media. It's on little social medias, but that's not the rank and file. But this Newsom is really seriously, he's in for the fight. I mean,
Well,
is this
I
a
hope
war?
so.
Is this a war? Are we
Well,
in a
I don't
war?
want
Civil
I
war.
don't want to describe it like
God,
that, but you
it's
do see
crazy.
that as each state begins to respond to this versioning crises, it is going to cause a complete destabilization in our electoral politics. People are simply not going to trust their local governments with elections anymore. And this is a crisis that's a bit irretrievable because what happens when you're in a situation where the population is facing a healthcare crisis, facing a crisis in employment, facing a crisis with affordability, facing a climate crisis, and this forth, that on, whatever, and the government is just completely non-responsive to the crises, the manifold crises that people are facing.
They're not even
Well,
sending North Carolina the money for that they promised for the
absolutely.
for the
Through FEMA for the restoration of Western North Carolina, we're still dealing with that. So those type of
insane.
things are going to continue to happen as our state devolves, and that is going to cause a lot of civil unrest. And I think that's in part what Trump is hoping is to provoke civil unrest, so it will give him the authority to continue his martial law project.
Do you think he has beginning stages of dementia? That's a
It's
conversation that happens a lot.
Yeah, it's hard to say. I don't like to say. I'm not a doctor, so it's hard to say.
Right, we're
I
not.
do think that his mental acuity appears to be declining.
It's
He
different,
appears,
definitely from videos I've watched from the first round to now. Holy
yeah,
crap. There's a big difference.
yeah. He does seem to be declining his mental health, and his mental acuity do seem to be on decline. And there has been some indication that he's had a very darkening of his hand. His ankles are really swollen, which shows that there could be a lack of circulation happening there. So there could be some heart problems. The president
Right.
could be suffering.
Yeah, it could be anything. You know what?
Yeah.
I have to break this in. I have this theory. We haven't heard much about Ivanka, have we?
Well, we haven't
I
heard
I
much
I,
about Ivanka.
I think
But
she's
my thing is, we haven't heard much about because of I think what Trump is trying to do is get us away from the Epstein story.
Sure, but
Um,
I think she is. I have this. Maybe it's a conspiracy theory. I think his daughter's a lot slicker than we all gave her the credit for, and I think she. The media's not saying this or reporting this, but I think she's probably really influential in her father's thinking. She's a snake in the grass.
and well, she
Hi,
may
my
be.
Ivanka.
But my problem with Trump here is that he's a really a destabilizing force,
He is.
and it's really hard to see that the United States is going to regain its reputation even upon him leaving office. Because we still have a Republican Party that is very extreme, and in order to appeal to a lot of those elements that created the MAGA program, they're going to have to continue to appeal to extremism. And in order to win the so called personality race of who's going to be the next Trump, you're going to see more and more extreme figures
Behavior.
rise to the fore on the Republican side.
Oh,
So, again,
nauseating.
this is a all hands on deck moment because as you're about to show, we're dealing with real planetary boundaries here, real crises that really put in question the future of our species on this planet, along with so many other
Right.
species. Um, you're going to show this video here.
I
I
will.
don't know when you wanted to show it,
I will.
but
I do have one thing I have to say before we leave
okay,
politics,
sure,
and
sure.
now I'm going to forget what it was because we're already into the planet. Oh, what everyone. Okay. You feel powerless, but yet you can become an election inspector where you live.
Mhm.
You can get trained. You can volunteer. And if they tell you no, they have to have a very good reason where you live. You can. I've done it. And you get paid to work the polls, you work the elections. It's not, oh, you can. Everybody has the power to still do
And it's
some things,
important,
some civic obligations.
and that's very important because people are losing trust. So one way to not lose trust is to verify. And one way to
Yes.
verify is actually getting your, feet on the ground and going and being an election auditor
Hmm.
and participating in the elections that way as well. Because I think that there's going to be a lot of quote unquote shenanigans with this midterms. And I think the gerrymandering is just the first prong of the approach the president is going to deploy. I think there's going to be multiple actions that the president and the Republicans deploy to try to tip the scales into their favor.
And another thing, you want to change your party to be a Republican and then vote against all the Republicans who write in Democrats. I'm just, these are little potatoes, but my point is that there are things people have to do. We can be complaining online all we want. And believe me, I do it, or I doom scroll, I read all this shit. But if we don't actually get to know your neighbors and get out there and understand who's actually trying to do something. I mean, there's all these people that are going to these things, these
I
events.
love,
Got to do
and
it.
on that, and please, the elections, your local elections are so important.
They
Okay,
really are.
I wish that we had a leader like Zoran Mondani in every city
Yeah,
in the
really.
United States because we need to go in the exact opposite direction from the Trump administration.
Yep.
We don't need to play these games with corporations anymore. We need to demand that the current Medicare system that we have, it needs to be expanded to every single American as a right of citizenship. We need to make sure that we pass a $15, the bare minimum, a $15 minimum wage.
Mm-hmm.
We need to make sure that we stand behind our teachers. We need to make sure that we stand behind immigrant communities across the United States and completely defund and go as far as the abolishing ICE. There's no need to have ICE. Um, and we really just need to go in the opposite direction when, of course, when it comes
Opposite.
to the Medicaid cuts, when it comes to the attacks on the EPA, when it comes to attacks on climate. And I think you have people like Mandani, you have people like Bernie Sanders. You have people like Alexandria
Mm-hmm.
Ocasio-Cortez who are standing up. And, Cory Booker, he's a showman. I don't really trust him. But, even sometimes he stands up against the president on these issues. And we're really going to need Democrats that are fighters, like Gavin Newsom, who's fighting. And again, I don't necessarily like
Jasmine.
Gavin Newsom, but he's really, like you say, sounding the alarm
Right.
on the danger of a
Sure.
total Republican capture of our government.
I pulled up his scorecard environmentally. I mean, he has a 2020 score 80%. So there's a whole website. The thing about all of these different platforms I'm on, they're not YouTube. So I don't have show notes except maybe Facebook. I can put all the show notes and put the links in for that. It was actually very interesting because I'm not gonna. I mean, I'm excited about the things that someone is fighting. That this is. I think this is brilliant and it's hilarious and it's getting under the skin of the people on the other side. I mean, he's really getting to Fox. He made a comment about the governor of Texas rolling in for the orange one, and Fox got all kinds of upset. I saw the clip. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is tit for tat. But listen, the old thing where Michelle Obama said, "When they go low, we go high." All bets are off. Sorry.
Yeah.
When they go low, we are going low. How else are we going to be?
Well,
This is we as a society in the United States, we are as degenerate as it gets. And guess what? Release the fucking Epstein files. I want to see them.
yeah, I think it's important to do anything that we can to destabilize the president's trust with his own faction. As
Yeah,
many MAGA people that we can at least get to be disillusioned with the president, that's important because that means they're less likely to vote for him or vote for people who are directly, you know, um, politicking in his name, so to speak. So I think it's important. I think it's also important for the name, for just the sake of justice. My God, some of the accusations that have, well, not just accusations, what we know about Epstein through his own trials, what we know about Ghislaine Maxwell. I mean, it's so interesting that the Republican Party spends so much time going after people who are gay, going after people who are part of the LGBTQ community plus. And yet, these people have apparently no problem
no,
with the president potentially pardoning one of the most disgusting, deplorable child abusers in our
it's
history. And
awful,
the
and it's triggered me because of my way past and the. I know a lot, and I wanted to do a show on it, and I'm not sure I wanted. I don't know what to do
it's
because of
really
the industry I was in. I worked in that industry. I not
wow.
modeling. I was a bartender. I worked in these exotic dancing places. I saw a lot. I heard a lot. I
Okay.
know a lot, and so it's these circles between the ultra wealthy. They all
Yeah.
circle in between each other, or they did. They still do, but now it's just like now you hear mostly about Republican people in like small potato business positions or government positions are getting busted for diddling kids. I mean, it's every week. It's every
Yeah,
week.
and you have to
The
wonder,
hypocrisy.
why don't Democrats run on that more? Why don't Democrats call out
Yeah.
Republicans? Why
Yeah.
do so many of your politicians find themselves engaged in these pedophilic engagements? How's that
Disgusting.
happening in the Republican Party? How are you supposed to be the party of family values when so
They're
many
not.
of your politicians are engaged in this demonic behavior?
So
And
sad.
to have the president of the United States to be potentially implicated in one of the worst criminal child trafficking and sex rings
Yeah.
is absolutely disgusting and deplorable that is possible. But again, and I think that's part of this too, because as president, he is the most powerful man in the world. And he also realizes that that's a devastating blow if he's really implicated in these files. And so he's trying to do all he can to move attention away from the Epstein file. And he's already said that many, many times. He says, why are people still talking about that? Those
Right.
losers.
Well, I want to know, and I want to know, we all know Bill Clinton's on it. We all know who's on it. We all
Including
know.
Alan,
And Bill Clinton
people
is a
like especially
disgusting
Alan
piece of shit,
Dershowitz,
too. Sorry. I don't like Bill Clinton.
including people like that. And so that's
Alan
also that,
Dershowitz, the
yeah,
joke of all
that's
time. I just got a massage. That's all he got. He got a massage. Nobody touched him under the towel.
yeah. And we know that Clinton is a bad guy too,
Yeah.
Monica. But you know what? The thing is that's right. That it is very likely that there are Democrats on the files, and that's why we haven't had such a full throated response from the Democrats to embarrass
Yeah,
the
of course it
president's
is.
issue. And this is the problem. This is the broader problem I think that people need to recognize about the Democratic Party. Why is it that we can't, with clarity, speak to these issues? Because so many of our Democratic politicians are receiving the same donations as the Republicans,
Yeah.
are engaged in the same type of behaviors as the Republicans. And so instead of getting a full throated response, we get a half baked response. Well, maybe that's not polite. No, this is the sort of things that would expose the president for the fraud that he is. Even the financial fraud that this man has been engaged in, we know that this man has been engaged in financial fraud. The fact
Okay.
that they didn't embarrass him over Trump University when he created a fake
Right?
university, giving out fake diplomas and certificates. I mean, just a complete
Yeah, but
charlatan.
we'll never get Citizens United overturned. Even with as many years as Move to Amend has worked, with this Supreme Court, they'll never overturn it. So everybody on every side is going to take the money.
Yeah,
Except for those that the progressive people that actually, like Bernie that followed in his that's why we donate to those people. Here's another one before we go to the planet. One more thing. What the hell is wrong with Hakeem Jeffries and why can't he do this? Why can't he just say, I am going? He said, I don't know him well enough. What you say is we have to go so far opposite of MAGA, and they can't. They can't do it. They
they
just
can't
can't do it.
because they're beholden to their
Yep.
donors.
Yes. Ghost
So
of Citizens United.
he can't support Zoran Mondani because Mondani represents a real
Threat.
threat to the donor class.
Ugh.
And that's just something that Hakeem Jeffries cannot handle. That's something that Chuck Schumer cannot handle. So that's part of the problem because the donor class is also a completely reckless and radical class. They believe that they should continue to absorb over 95% of the wealth that the country generates, regardless if that means 70,000 people die in the absence of health care each year, regardless if that means that we have people who are homeless, regardless if that means that people can't afford housing, regardless if that means people can't afford child care. They think that they should be able to buy 8 different private jets, regardless of the state of the nation. This is an
Yeah.
extremist, radical position. They believe that they should be able to poison our water supplies if that's the cheapest way to get rid of waste. They believe they should be able to poison our air if that's the cheapest way to expel their exhaust.
Yep.
They believe they should be able to change our climate if that's the easiest way to release their emissions. And that's the sort of mentality that these corporations have. And that's the sort of view they have about everybody in the country. And what's really scary is you're starting to see even
Wow.
people. What shocked me was Tim Cook of Apple because this is a gay man, an openly gay man, and he's going to sit there and do a dog and pony show with the president of the United States. But it really goes back to show us this is no different than the Nazi Germany moment. Because when the German industrialists were asked the question of whose side are you on, they all fell under the wing of Hitler. Okay, and Hitler took over many corporations in the state, and
Mm-hmm.
so this is the same sort of play here. that corporations are going to get in line. That's why you have Palantir right now that's
Yeah,
developing the most advanced security and surveillance apparatus we have ever seen. That's going to keep personal
Peter
profiles on every
too.
single American.
He's evil.
Um, so
Another
these things are
evil.
really coming to fruition here.
Project 2025, full force. I was doing shows about it, and I'd say everybody woke up to it around the same. Well, some people earlier. I knew about it earlier, but really everybody woke up to it, but too late. I mean, there's no lefty version of Project 2025. There's no counter.
Well,
We need
no, we do
cohesive.
have a lefty version.
What
It's
is
called
it?
the Green New Deal.
Yeah, okay.
That was our
That's
counter version to
well,
this.
yeah, I
Our
guess you
counter
could say.
version was going
All
to
right.
have a government jobs program. Our counter version was going to have national child care. Our counter version was
Oh,
going to have Medicare for all. Our counter version was going to have a build out of wind,
you're right.
solar, high speed rail.
Yay.
Our counter version was going to be the complete opposite of what we now have. In the big beautiful bill is the exact opposite
Opposite.
of the Green New Deal.
There you go. Wow. And all these idiots call it the Green New Scam and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, look, there are things that a lot of people don't agree with in that legislation,
But
of
see,
course.
that's the other pussyfooting, and I don't mean to say that, but my
Well,
God, we're about to go extinct as a species,
yeah, I
and
know.
we're kind of like, well,
Oh,
maybe
God.
the plan that's clearly better
Yeah, I
than
hear
the
you.
suicidal plan. There's one plan that is let's commit a global suicide. That's the big beautiful bill. The other plan of let's at least try everything that we know that seems reasonable to
Yes,
go in the opposite direction.
100%. I love
Crazy.
it. That is exactly what we need to hear. We need to do everything and anything we can. And that's what I say. I'm not sitting back and just watching it roll over me. There you go.
Think about how
Now,
much better our country would be in right now if Bernie Sanders had won the 2016 election and we had enacted something like a Green New Deal. Yeah, people would have their complaints, but we would really start to see a country that was pulling itself together. And instead, we've gotten this nightmare, and we're really just beginning to step into it. I remind people we're only 8 months out of 4 years into the second term of the Trump presidency.
it's really crazy. It is. I'm writing to Poppy in the chat. Okay. All right. Well, I think it's time to segue. It is time to segue. So, because I know you were on a time thing. So let's play. We'll play this one then.
Imagine a world.
All right, hang on, guys. We're gonna play this. We're going to play it. Intermission.
Imagine a world where over half of the land is on the brink of collapse, struggling to maintain the delicate balance of our ecosystem. This is the stark reality we're facing today, as a recent study reveals that a staggering 60% of the Earth's land is at risk. But here's where it gets alarming: the majority of the world's land area is in a precarious state, and it's not just a matter of climate change, it's a complex issue that involves the very foundation of our planet's health. The concept of functional biosphere integrity refers to the plant world's ability to maintain the essential cycles of carbon, water, and nitrogen that regulate the Earth system. It's a core element of the planetary boundaries framework, which defines a safe operating space for humanity. And this is the part most people miss: the strain we're putting on the biosphere is not just about climate change, but about the way we're utilizing the land for food, raw materials, and other purposes. As Fabian Stenzel, one of the authors of the study, puts it, there is an enormous need for civilization to utilize the biosphere, but it's becoming even more important to quantify the strain we're already putting on the biosphere, to identify overloads. The study, conducted by researchers from the Potsdam Institute for Climate Impact Research in Germany and the Boku University in Vienna, Austria, used a comprehensive approach to measure the strain on the planet. They built on the latest update of the planetary boundaries framework, which puts energy flows from photosynthesis at the center of those processes that co-regulate planetary stability. Wolfgang Lucht, who coordinated the study, explains that these energy flows drive all of life, but humans are now diverting a sizable fraction of them to their own purposes, disturbing nature's dynamic processes. The researchers used two key indicators to measure this stress: the proportion of natural biomass productivity that humanity uses for its own purposes, and the risk of ecosystem destabilization, which records complex changes in vegetation and the biosphere's natural cycles. The results are stark. 60% of global land areas are now outside the locally defined safe zone, and a significant 38% are in a high-risk zone. But here's the controversial part. The study suggests that governments must treat comprehensive biosphere protection together with strong climate action as a single overarching issue. This raises important questions. Can we really mitigate climate change without addressing the strain on the biosphere? And what does this mean for international climate policy? The study's findings are a breakthrough from a scientific perspective, but they also provide an important impetus for further development of climate policy. As Johan Rockström, one of the authors, puts it, governments must treat it as a single overarching issue, comprehensive biosphere protection together with strong climate action. So, what do you think? Should governments prioritize comprehensive biosphere protection alongside climate action?
I'm committed to ensuring the United States has the cleanest air and cleanest water on Earth.
Hello. So, that could be a whole other hour in and of itself, but let's just say that we are in trouble and we really are an overshoot. And what do we do about this part of the equation? Is there something you feel that is going to happen? Maybe the rest of the world, but the United
Well,
States.
this is actually, and that's why this is such a interesting crisis that we face, because how we actually utilize the biosphere is a much more serious and much more dynamic question than any of the political questions that we talked about today. Because obviously societies that aren't going through a MAGA crisis or through a proto-fascist crisis, like say Japan or South Korea, these are highly advanced societies, and yet you saw they were highlighted on this map as well. So this is a problem of our civilization, not just a problem of political ideology. And it takes concentrated, highly focused, highly educated, highly informed engagement in order to make progress on an issue like this.
Right.
And because the Earth dynamic system is so sophisticated, so complex, the level of cooperation that is needed is truly unprecedented in order to make effective gains. One of the issues that I pointed out to even a friend today at lunch was a 2016 study, and this is a direct result of our land use. But from 1990 to 2016, 70% of insect biomass on the planet had disappeared. Now, that's absolutely stunning. But again, it is an indicator of the crises, the very
Mm-hmm.
real crises that we are in. And I would just ask anybody today, everybody who's looking at this podcast, go outside tonight and turn on your porch light and see how many bugs hover around your porch light. Or again, drive between 10 and 3 a.m. in the morning and see how many bugs end up on the front of your car. The world is increasingly becoming silent. And what is replacing the noise of nature are the noise of our cities and of
Mm-hmm.
our really of ourselves. And this is a very frightening and scary moment that so many of the other earthlings are just disappearing at mass. And it's a direct response to not just climate change, but our land use.
Mm-hmm.
The way that we use our land, the way that we develop our cities, the way, and overwhelmingly, it's our agriculture. Remember,
Mm-hmm.
the amount of farmland on this planet equals the size of South America. So think
I'm
about the
living
continent.
in a farm rural community across the
So
street
think
from
about
corn and cows and horses and everything here.
South America as a landmass. That entire landmass can be covered from every square inch by the agricultural capacity of the planet. That's how much forest, that's how much land around the world that we've excavated for agriculture, and that has a dynamic impact on our planet, because of course those lands that we grow food are going to be lands that are formerly forest, right? Are going to be lands that are very biodiverse, very biologically and ecologically productive lands. And so we're destroying that ecological productivity and replacing it for monoculture, for agriculture
Palm
productivity,
oil. Yeah, I know.
and and things
Palm
like
oil for
that.
mass marketing in the United States on the dollar store shelf.
So these are real crises. Um, it's hard to say, even if we did have a sort of international consortium that was dedicated to responding to these crises, that we'd actually be able to get them in hand in time. There is I was just reading not too long ago, but there was, I think, led by China actually, a program where they're trying to reduce plastic waste into the environment. Because, of course, the plastic waste in the environment is another devastation onto our ecology. And, of course, that's impacting us as well as humans. So there again are a lot of serious ecological crises that our civilization face, well beyond the problems the Trump administration is engaged in. The Trump administration is just simply saying all of those things that Antonio is talking about. I'm just simply going to pretend they don't exist.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
denialism. It's such a denialist viewpoint. Unreal. It's denialist and nihilist in a way.
So we are, as a species, asking the most important question our species. And it's very interesting. It's very unique. Never before in the history of humanity have we been able to ask the questions we're asking today. And that's because never before have we had the ability to impact the global system the way that we do. And today we are asking the question if our species will continue on in any sort of organized fashion beyond this century. It's a serious question, and it's a question that we are answering every day. And right now, the United States is answering it, saying, absolutely not. We're going to end this experiment of human organized life. And as we do that, we're going to make our friends extremely rich.
Rich, and then Jesus will swoop down and take them to the holy
I guess that's the
place.
hope, right?
That's the hope. Yeah, that's the hope. But of course, I am not a religious scholar. You are.
Well,
And that leads me to my okay. There we go. I
right.
found this for you. I made it up. You have been going through. We have been going through some shit since the dawn of time.
Yeah.
You see the angst in the stone. Oh my god. I thought that was fitting. I definitely did. So we also have to do a flush of the day. People that don't know our show, we have a thing we do. It's called the Environmental Coffee House Flush of the Day, where usually someone in the chat chooses something that they want to flush down. I mean, we already know the United States is circling the drain, but let's figure it out. So, people in the chat, because I didn't forget about you, what are we flushing? And now we have like I don't know, we have lags. Twitter seems to be really lagging. I don't know where Facebook is. Yeah, there's lags. Twitter's really lagging. It's the first time I've ever done this on X. So we'll see what happens. I mean, I'm putting myself out there and I feel like I'm on Rumble.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens. Although we have people watching, and I mean,
Yeah. We
there
got over
is
100 people.
right, and there's a home for our thinking. on X.
Yeah.
There's a home because we're progressives and we are science people, and we know because we're not dealing in Kellyanne Conway alternative facts. We are dealing in reality of science. We are not paid by any nefarious, we're not paid. We're not doing this for anything. It's just okay. See, everybody always says this every time. I love it. They're every time. Every time. Okay. Okay. Oh, Gnome. We could flush Christy Gnome. Oh, my God. There's so many people. So many people. Okay.
I know,
Okay.
including Zeldin.
Yeah. Oh, Lee. I flush him in my head daily. Poppy, I just want to just get back to you. I don't know what happened. I don't think she would do anything like that. So I wonder if there's auto moderation. Huh. I don't have a clue. There's three different things. All right. I personally I'm gonna pick. We might have to do two, but I'll pick Lee Zeldin because I think he's the Grim Reaper. He's just the architect of his own kind of doom. So here we
Yeah.
go. Bye bye, Lee. Bye, Lee.
And you know what?
Circling the
I forgot to,
drain.
and I don't know how I could forget to mention Peak Hexeth, because
Oh,
he's really responsible for so
another one.
much of this aggressive military response. And he's essentially a neo-Nazi,
Yeah.
which I guess is not a really standout attribute in the Trump administration.
No, I mean he fits right in. I mean, he fits right in. I'm going to do one more flush. I'm flushing the entire goddamn Trump administration. Bye bye. And I'm going to have to make it really loud. All right, one more flush. It's very cathartic to do the environmental coffeehouse flush of the day. I'm sorry, but it makes me feel good because I visualize the swirl of
But you know
people's
what?
heads.
I do also want to give a shout out because the I Had It podcast, which I just have fallen in love with.
Oh, the two
Um,
gals.
yes, they made their way. Fox News started criticizing them, and when
Wow.
Fox News picks up on them because they are really breaking through and they're offending those
Oh
people. And
boy.
anybody who offends Fox News is a fan of mine.
Well, that's great. That's great. I'll have to catch more of their episodes when I'm doing things. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. That's good. Gave him a shout out. Hey, ladies, we are here. Maybe next time we do a show on this again, I'll put them in the at and put their name.
Oh yeah, yeah,
I mean, I'm sure they probably have no time because when you work on a high powered show, you work on a busy show. It's a lot of work, to
yeah,
do
and they do
these
a lot
things.
of content.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they do a lot of content, but
I
I'm
mean,
sure they have the help now. They're doing
oh
well.
yeah,
And it's
yeah,
not like my
positive.
little one person show
And
right
they had
here.
plenty of money, I'm sure, also going into it. Obviously, look at their studio and their setup.
Yeah.
Um,
Not
so,
like, oh, you mean not like mine?
hey,
The
listen,
the
I'm in my living room.
30 my 30-year-old dresser that the mover said if I ever move it one more time, the whatever it is, it's an office piece of crap furniture that was, the screw together at home garbage. If I
Oh
move
yeah.
it, it won't move. I'm not leaving. I mean, I'm not moving, but anyway, listen, let's just take a couple of comments and then we are done for the evening. Oh, Poppy loves the flush. We love you too. Yes, yes, yes. And Kim, thank you for coming. Kim, you're on X. That's cool. Very cool. Yeah, Zelda was a good choice to flush. All right, I did have something. Cheryl was here. Okay. Cheryl, you're still here. I'm amazed that people still believe electronic voting with no paper trail on private machines running private software and touchscreen machines and tabulated on private central tabulators is secure from hacking when the companies running the machines certainly know how to hack them. Hell yeah! And
Well,
that's what you were talking about.
we still do paper ballots in
Back
North
up.
Carolina. So,
We do
But I
too.
mean, I mean that's the least of my concerns. I mean, if these people want to manipulate the
They're
count,
going to do it no
they
matter
can
what.
manipulate. Yeah, it doesn't matter what system you have.
Yep. Keep hearing people saying, remember, you have rights. You don't if the rule of law no longer matters. Be careful. Yeah, we
Well, that's
are.
the whole thing
Are we
about
on the
being black.
wild side on this
Well, that's the
show?
whole thing about being black in America. I mean, we've been saying that forever. I mean, we're supposedly supposed to have had these rights, and that's been our whole history is actually not having the rights that we supposedly are told that we have. And now we're starting to see that not only are black people facing that, Latino people are facing that, Jewish people are facing that, women are facing that, lesbian and gay people are facing that. The Supreme Court, which I just is now going to take up the issue of gay marriage, and you know exactly where they're going to go on that.
Well, they're good. It's done.
Um, so actually, they're not even being told that you have rights; they're being told you don't have rights. So they're not even getting the decency of being lied to.
It's like you just don't want to leave out of the house, but that's not possible for most people. It's possible for me because I have nowhere to go and no money to go to do it with. I am that American. I'm in that this whole thing, where it's not easy for anybody. But that's
Yeah.
another show, and I have kittens to tend to, who are very active on the cameras, and I'm looking for homes for them. So I am the crazy cat lady. I am also Miss Jevons Paradox, and I'm going to do a show with that title. I'm going to
Okay.
wear it. I am Miss Jevons Paradox. If it's electronic, I use it. I like it, but then I'm just using more of it. All right, so why don't you tie up the show? You did a great job with the news. You really did with the current events. We went over anything, everything. Is there anything that you missed?
Oh boy.
Oh boy, nothing like putting you on the spot there, Antonio.
Yeah, well, actually, I did miss one little thing because we were talking about hurricanes, and I'll end here because I don't want to keep droning on.
Right.
But just to have in our conscious and our thoughts that, alligator Alcatraz is unfortunately still in operation, even though there's been an outbreak and an infection there. But what's also been revealed by a lot of the work that Jordan Chariton has done on Status Quo, his program,
Yeah,
is
Jordan's
that,
great.
of course, that these people don't actually have a hurricane evacuation plan. And this is the type of danger that I was already warning about when they announced construction of this project. And look at what's happened. Hurricane Aaron was, decidedly between a Cat 4, Cat 5. What if that hurricane had its way toward Florida? Or
Yeah.
worse yet, what if it did one of these rapid intensifications where we didn't see it as a very large hurricane coming and it didn't become a very powerful storm until it was too late? So this is what I'm talking about, just the absolute lack of care for human life.
Well, that about wraps that up. Wow. I mean, really, the absolute not caring about human life, but not caring about any life, really.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just not caring. It's sad. It's quite sad, but we can leave on an up note and at least say it's Saturday night. Try to enjoy the rest of the night with your families or with your loved ones or with your pets or your cats or your dogs. And we thank you for coming. Thank everybody for coming because we had a good turnout on X for the first time. So I'm impressed, and we'll see how that goes. Maybe people resonated, with you, Antonio. I hope so. You've got a lot to offer, and I'm really proud to be with you. So thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
All right, everybody. Good night. Again, we don't have a regular schedule. Were we going to do every other Saturday?
Yeah. Yeah,
Because
we
every.
can.
All right.
Yeah, we can do that.
All right. I'm working on schedules. We've had a difficult summer, losing the YouTube and my health and all, but we'll be back. All right.
Hopefully, I'll make a little bit more progress on my studio.
All right. It's okay. You look great. You look great. All right, guys. Peace out.